The invocation by myself.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, again, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the blessings you bestow upon each of us and this county. Please be with our folks out there that are struggling. Be with them, provide them comfort and guidance. And Lord, be with this board tonight as we do the work of the county. Let it glorify your name. In your name we pray. Amen. Mr. Chairman, I understand Mr. Skinner's going to be on the phone with us. Have we got him?
Yes, sir. Mr. Skinner would like us to call him, and Ed has his number. And is there a action we need to attend to?
Yep. I'm going to read the statement here. There is a quorum present, that we're contacted by Supervisor Skinner, and that he would not be able to physically attend the board meeting today due to his recovery from a heart attack. He wishes to participate remotely from his home in Spotsylvania County. Call for the approval of Mr. Skinner's remote participation in the meeting. Need a majority vote. Call for this, and I would like to call for the suspension of the bylaws, which require electronic voting, to be replaced by roll call voting while Mr. Skinner participates in the meeting. Can we have a motion to suspend?
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Yakubowski to suspend our bylaws. And I'll start down the opposite way. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Trampy?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin? Aye. Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Chair's aye.
And the second vote to approve the participation.
Can we have a motion to participate remotely?
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Yakubowski. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Trampy?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin? Aye. And Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Chair's aye. We'll give it a second or two to see if we can get him. Mr. Skinner, can you hear us? Nope.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Skinner.
Thanks. You, sir.
Thanks for coming on board with us, and I hope you're doing better. I've been praying for you for a quick recovery.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. First item is approval of the board's agenda. There is one modification to the agenda, number 4 on the consent agenda, the approval of a purchase order for Superion LLC for the Track at 9 software upgrade. Needs to be pulled and brought back in August. We weren't quite able to complete a couple of points with the vendor on that contract.
Okay.
There are no items in the bullpen, so what we need is action to approve the agenda.
All right, can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda by Mr. Yakubowski. Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Trampy?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin? Aye. Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Chair, aye.
Thank you. That brings us to public presentations. Mr. Chairman, Amy, has anyone signed up?
Mr. Benton, Mr. Skinner.
Oh,
needed to
I'm
vote.
sorry, Mr. Skinner. I'm leaving you out. How about on your vote?
My vote is aye.
Okay. I apologize, sir.
Yes, we have one citizen signed up to speak.
A review, please. Guidelines for public presentations. Public presentations are opportunities for citizens to present matters they believe deserve the board's attention. These presentations are not part of a public hearing. Sign up to speak at each public hearing is separate. Public presentations are one-way comments from citizens to the board. This is not a forum for dialogue or debate. To make a public presentation, please sign up on the provided sign-up sheet and please print clearly. Come to the lectern when your name is called. Clearly state your name, address, name and voting district, for our record. Address your comments directly to the board. State whether you're speaking on your own behalf, in which case you'll have 3 minutes to speak, or speaking on behalf of a group, in which case you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Public presentations shall not be used to address matters subject to public hearings or to make political campaign speeches, private advertisements, or personal attacks. Your written comments are always welcomed by the Board of Supervisors. There is a lighted timer on the podium. Green means speak, yellow means you have 30 seconds to sum up, and when the light turns red, your microphone will be turned off. Amy, who has signed up to speak, please?
Carl Stedman.
Yes, my name is Carl Stedman, voting District 7. I think I have that right. I have a question to ask that are questions that are pertinent to me only, and I don't feel like schooling a lawyer, or I'm told to get a lawyer. Why do I need an attorney to see an official paid by my taxes? This regards a magistrate's order against me that restricts me from a building, its property, anyone connected to the property, and I can't even send Christmas cards. Is that my civil rights being stepped on? Any infraction implies arrest and jail. I'm not in jail. I'm unable to contact the magistrate and to ask pertinent questions. Why? I was across the street not long ago, and a big black lady answered it. She's standing about this high above me and looking down at me, and I felt it demeaning. I said, "Are you the magistrate?" She said, "Yeah." Now, I didn't get invited in to ask questions that are pertinent to me, and this here rule against me. I never can think of it. I need a magistrate to reply to questions regarding a magistrate's order. Now, I thought a magistrate was a human being somewhere, but I rung a phone yesterday. It's probably still ringing. Thank you for listening.
There are no other citizens signed up to speak.
All right, is there anybody that wishes to speak that did not sign up? We'll close public presentations.
Brings us to the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman. The floor computer, please. Your consent agenda for July 10th, 2018 is as follows. Number 1 is to accept and appropriate additional funds for the Virginia Department of Health Child Safety Seat Check Station Coordinator Grant Award. It's at $23,253 in additional funds with no local match. Item 2 is to appoint Nancy Beebe to the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board for a term that expires June 30th of 2021. Item 3 is the approval of a contract to J.L. Kent and Sons, Inc. for the Country Club Estates Waterline Replacement Project at a low bid cost of $976,687. Item 4 is pulled. Item 5 is the approval of a grant application request and resolution for the FY18 BJA Stop Violence Threat Assessment and Technology Reporting Program. This provides monies up to $95,472 with a 25% local match to come from school instructional technology budgeted funds. Item 6 is the resolution for the Hardwood Cove Subdivision Street acceptance into the Virginia Secondary Street System. This is a routine matter in the Chancellor District. Item 7, I have the floor computer back. If not, item 7 is a personal property tax refund to Ewa and Michael Midkiff in the amount of $2,881.78. Item 8 is a proclamation for the Isaac Walton League of America 2018 National Convention, which is July 17th to the 21st of 2018. Item 9 is a proclamation for the Sheriff's National Night Out, which is Tuesday, August 7th of 2018. And item 10 is River Glen Phase 2 Subdivision Street Acceptance into Virginia Secondary Street System, another routine resolution for the Cortland District. And that is your consent agenda.
Any supervisors want any of these removed? Mr. Taylor, should we remove 8 and 9, let those be read at that time, and then vote on those two?
At your pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll pull 8 and 9. Can we get a motion to approve all but 8 and 9?
So moved.
And of course, number 4 having been pulled.
And 4 having been pulled already. All right. Motion by Mr. Ross to approve, except for 4, 8, and 9. Mr. Skinner. Mr. Skinner. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Chair is aye. Mr. Skinner?
Aye.
Okay. And
Pulled item is a proclamation recognizing the Isaac Walton League of America for the 2018 National Convention and the Fredericksburg-Rappahannock chapter of the IWLA. Whereas the Isaac Walton League of America was founded in 1922 to conserve outdoor America for future generations. And whereas almost every major successful conservation program that America has in place today can be traced directly to a league activity or initiative. And whereas located in nearly 240 communities across the country, league chapters offer opportunities to enjoy outdoor recreation and participation in conservation programs. And whereas the Fredericksburg-Rappahannock chapter of the Isaac Walton League is located in Spotsylvania County, and whereas the 2018 Isaac Walton League of America National Convention is being held July 17th to 21 of 2018 in Fredericksburg, Virginia, to include Civil War battlefield tours and a Rappahannock River paddle tour. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors recognizes Fredericksburg, Virginia as the location for the Isaac Walton League of America 2018 National Convention, and further recognizes the Isaac Walton League of America through the local Fredericksburg-Rappahannock chapter of the IWLA.
very nice.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve?
Motion to approve number 8 for the Isaac Walton League. Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. Skinner.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Chair, aye. Mr. Taylor.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is a resolution of a proclamation for the National Night Out for 2018. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August 7th, entitled the National Night Out. And whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, to join over 38 million neighbors across approximately 16,000 communities from all 50 states,
Mr. Taylor?
U.S. territories.
I'm sorry, we do have a representative from the sheriff's office, I guess with the proclamation itself. Would you like to read it? We'll let the sheriff's office. First Sergeant Jones.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Just want to come out and get the proclamation signed for this year's National Night Out. It's going to be held again at the Spotsylvania Town Center from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on August the 7th. The proclamation for National Night Out 2018 says, whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, sponsors a national community building campaign on Tuesday, August the 7th, 2018, entitled National Night Out, and whereas the National Night Out campaign provides an opportunity for neighbors in Spotsylvania County, Virginia, to join over 38 million neighbors across approximately 16,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, and military bases worldwide, and whereas National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police, community partnerships, and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live, and whereas neighbors in Spotsylvania County assist the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office through joint community building efforts and support National Night Out 2018, and whereas it is essential that all neighbors of Spotsylvania County come together with police and work together to build a safer, more caring community, and now, therefore, we, members of the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors, do hereby call upon all neighbors of Spotsylvania County to join the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office and National Association of Town Watch and support for National Night Out on Tuesday, August the 7th, 2018. And it says, further let it be resolved that we, members of the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 7th, 2018 as National Night Out in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. And if you guys don't mind, just need your signatures on a proclamation, and we'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Do you want to,
Motion to approve.
we got a motion to approve by Mr. Marshall. Mr. Skinner,
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski,
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
You are.
Aye.
Thank you. Phew, I'm all over the place tonight. And chair's aye. You want to come up? Do you want each of us to come up and do it? Yeah. Sure. You have a pen for us, or? Well, one of mine, that's fine. Either way. It's all the same color.
Hope to see you in National Night Out. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. See you then.
First Sergeant, thank you again.
It brings us to board reports, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Marshall?
I would like to make this, I'm gonna make this, this statement, I'm gonna make it into a form of a motion, but I would like to have on our next agenda the recognition of, we have a citizen, a deputy, a combined fire and rescue crew that was with combined staffing of volunteer and career. In May, they had a CPR save where a gentleman made a full recovery. Also, we had another crew in May that rescued a man from a structure fire and saved a man's life on 2 occasions in the month of May. Our fire and rescue staff did. The fire chief has sent out a communication with the details of this, and I'd like to have it added to the agenda in August, that we recognize these crews and these people that have made these very above and beyond the normal duties to make this happen.
Any discussion? Motion by Mr. Marshall for a, I guess, recognition for 2 different crews on our next meeting. Mr. Skinner?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Trampy?
Aye.
And chair's aye. Is that all you got? Oh, yeah, that's it. All right. Dr. Trampy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On August 16th, the Virginia Association of Counties is having its summer meeting. At 8:30 in the morning is the gathering of county supervisors. Beginning at 3:30 are the steering committees. And the reason I bring this up is because it's being held at the Fredericksburg Expo Center. This is the first year that I know of that it's not being held in Richmond. And although Fredericksburg, since it's a city, technically we're the host county since we're closest. This would be a good opportunity for others to become involved. On the steering committees, you can't vote unless you're a member of the committee. However, everyone is free to participate, and this is the beginning of the process to draw up the VACO legislative agenda for the next year. So I invite all my colleagues to participate. That's August 16th at the Fredericksburg Expo and Conference Center. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Skinner? Mr. Skinner, do you have anything?
No, nothing to report.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank all the staff and volunteers that put together the Stars and Stripes last week. It was a great event. The weather did not participate with the heat, and I know that attendance was down, but still, when the fireworks came on, there seemed like a lot of people had showed up to see them, and it was a great event. So thank you to everybody who put it together. I've asked in years past, and I'm going to ask again and push this year to see if we can add a parade to the Stars and Stripes. One of the things I was noticing on Independence Day, the actual day of, was how many communities around the Commonwealth have a parade. Little itty-bitty places to very large ones to big communities. Lots of places do it, and I would like to see what it would take for us to do it, and ask that at our next board meeting in August, a preliminary report write-up would be done. I know that we already do a Christmas parade, so we already have a structure that is set up for it, and if there needs to be more manpower, I know that we're adding that tourism person to the budget in the new budget. So that would be a perfect job for them to do, I guess, to task them with. Again, thank you to everybody who participated, who put it together. It was a fantastic day, and it's a great way to kick off a week celebration of our independence. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mac.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Ross?
I just want to repeat what Mr. Yakubowski said. I did not know our attendance was down at the Stars and Stripes. I think it took two of my children about 20 minutes to get some funnel cake with the lines that were out there near the fireworks. And definitely the fireworks display was fantastic, well attended, and I want to thank the VACOS companies for doing that. It was just a special night for my family and me, and it always seems to be. It's just an amazing fireworks show that I haven't been to a DC fireworks in a long time, but I have to think that we are competing with them. It's just was a fantastic fireworks show. So that's all I've got.
For the chair, I just need to make a public apology to Arthur Snyder. He's a former member of the Transportation Committee. It was actually an appointment by Ms. Heidig that I left on when I was elected. I just wanted to give him a sincere apology. When I appointed myself, there was no excuses, but I failed to actually notify him, and he didn't find out except by letter through the county, and it was just, I just wanted to publicly apologize to him and ask for his forgiveness. I have spoken to him briefly, and it's my fault. I have no excuses, and I'm sorry. So, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to a staff presentation. This is an update on the status of the One Solution Human Resources and Financial Management System software project. And while Mary and Becky and Jane are coming forward for this, I want to offer the word picture that goes with it as we've tried to describe among the working group with the One Solution project what it is that we're doing, because we're in a lean organization continuing to run the organization and provide service while changing out our brain. So imagine driving down I-95, as many of us do, at 70 miles an hour or greater, and changing the tires at the same time. That is effectively what we're trying to accomplish with a go-live date of July 1st of 2019. And so this is an update for the board on the status of this undertaking.
Floor is yours.
Full computer, please. Good afternoon, members of the board. Purpose of today's presentation is to give you an update on our new HR and financial management system called One Solution. Our goal today is to provide a refresher on the project's purpose and benefits, the project risks and associated controls, a high-level project timeline and its current status, as well as a follow-up discussion on some project staffing needs. The project's mission is to implement a system with maximum data integrity that will enable our employees to better serve our citizens through improved accountability, service, and transparency. One Solution will provide improved accountability through a fully automated purchasing process, a real-time automated approval workflow process, automated reminder notifications to help prevent missed deadlines. It'll also provide maximum data integrity with a robust, role-based security platform, as well as a new financial document management system that will allow us to reduce the need for filing systems for paper contracts, purchase orders, invoices, etc. The system will also include a more user-friendly interface, as well as more intuitive screens that have better navigation, drill-down functionality, as well as online help tools. And lastly, the system will greatly improve our transparency with a much improved reporting system that provides customized dashboards for management as better monitoring tools. It also has a built-in scanning software to assist us going paperless, as well as improved data analytics to assist in improving our financial performance. As y'all are aware, every project comes with risk. One Solution will touch every department and every employee, so it is critical that we build an insurance plan to mitigate those risks. What we are trying to avoid is similar failures within other localities. For example, the city of Richmond, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, a very public failure where there was the unfortunate headline in the newspaper that read, "The frustrating, depressing, embarrassing story behind Richmond City Hall's mind-numbing financial mayhem." Not very nice. Unfortunately, the result of this failure, they delayed their issuance of their financial statements for 3 years. They overpaid their vendors by great amounts. And they had a revolving door of management that they're still trying to recover from. So there's some serious risks to this type of project. So our goal in finance is to help build a risk management team. That team will include myself and our new senior accountant over internal controls, Ashley George. She's going to be crucial in building this project plan that will provide the assurance that responsibilities that you see here on this slide. It's something, Ashley's role is really going to be something that would be critical to any internal audit function for a locality, municipality, et cetera. We are following a phased approach to this project. Phase 1 will be implementing our core products that we currently have, as well as 2 additional products that are the contract management and purchasing. We are set to go live July 1 of 2019. We will follow up 6 months after that to implement our HR and payroll functions, where we will go live on January 1st of 2020. I think I neglected in a previous slide, and it's an important thing to point out. We are implementing a new self-service tool for our employees. This is going to be a tool where at any point in the day, any day of the week, our employees can go in and access their pay, benefits, and related financial documentation. For example, W-2s, pay stubs. So I just realized I left that out, and I wanted to revisit that. I wanted to give a status on our project. I'm pleased to report that we are on schedule for Phase 1, going live again July 1, 2019. We have loaded the software. We are working on adding the data into the system, migrating the data. We have been meeting with our consultants to go over the configuration options that we have within the system. And then we're going to be shortly starting to work with our departments to share these configuration options to start making some decisions on how we're going to use the system to the best advantage of the county. I did want to mention we are going to build a very robust training program. That's critical to the success of this project. We're going to have your traditional classroom, but we're also going to build custom online tutorials as well as have some hands-on workshops. All of this will be done prior to our go live. And we're going to keep these tools in effect for at least 3 months after we go live to make sure that staff are properly supported during this transition.
Before Becky leaves the slide, I wanted to point out, we have been fully aware that this is a huge project, a lot of time spent right now, mainly with finance staff. The treasurer staff is also involved. We have team leads. We have a calendar that is pretty overwhelming. Along with the regular jobs that are being done, staff is also managing this project on the side. Beginning in March, about midway on that, March 2019 was where we'll begin the training. We'll be training our staff, and then our staff will be training the other users. From that point on until we implement and through September, we anticipate, and I want to make everyone fully aware, that there will be some level of productivity lowering. We will not be able to produce the amount of work we produce in the time we do now during those periods because it's going to be a lot of focus on getting this system implemented. We're working behind the scenes to do things differently. You may notice over the next couple months, like the budget process may have a little different dates, some different things, because we're trying to be smart in how we get everything accomplished during that period of time. We fully are aware that the productivity will go down, but we anticipate once the system is implemented, it will begin to ratchet back up. And once the system is fully implemented and usable, we think it will produce more productivity than we have now. So the goal is to get beyond that level, but as the case with any system of this magnitude, you're going to have some of that lower productivity. So I just want to make you all aware that we are aware of it. We're working behind the scenes to try to make it as unnoticeable to you as possible, but there may be times, and I have had conversations with each of you over the years where I've said, I can't get this thing done today that you're asking me, can I have a few more days? You may have a few more of those conversations from our staff as we try to implement this, and we will, as always, work as best we can to get everything done behind the scenes.
Well, and Mary, for the record, I mean, this is a comment, the comment that you just made is one that's made when the report is that everything is on time and on course, the traffic light in the upper right-hand corner is nice and green, and everything is looking positive, but you talk about the training commencing in March, which is high budget season around here, and so there is naturally going to be, inevitably going to be next spring, something of a conflict or a set of challenges as between the One Solution implementation program and the budget development program with the board. So we will be, in fact, Bonnie's been talking with us, and we've been sketching a somewhat modified budget development calendar, and we'll be bringing that forward to the board. I don't want that to come as a surprise later, because such is the significance of the impact of getting One Solution done. We just need to trim, to the extent reasonably possible, the budget process and simplify the workload for the finance staff that is concurrently at that same time going to be heavily invested in getting One Solution implemented. So we'll get it all done, but it's going to require working together.
Yes, absolutely. And we're, like I said, we're doing the best we can behind the scenes to make it as unnoticeable to you all as possible.
Well, basically what I was hearing was, unlike this past year where we, I guess, had 30 different budget scenarios requested by various supervisors, I being one of them, maybe that won't be as possible this next year.
We
That's what I'm hearing.
We appreciate just that you acknowledge that it's going to happen, that we're going to do our best to make it work. It is, like I said, if you were to see the calendar now that we're working with, there's a lot of overlapping now that's going on behind the scenes. Staff is trucking along and doing their best, and we're able to maintain. But in March, when we begin the training and when we actually start pulling other departments in, it is going to be a bit overwhelming. We're prepared. We're preparing for it, and we expect it. So the last thing I want to talk to you about are a couple staffing needs that have come to our attention as we've been going through the implementation. It has become increasingly obvious that there are the addition of 2 permanent positions, one full-time and one part-time, that we think will be key to the ongoing management, maintenance, and security of the system. Becky has done a good job of explaining some of the risk involved. We want to get it right, and more importantly, I want to get it right long-term. So we believe the addition of these 2 positions could serve to protect the long-term investment that you have already made in this system upgrade. The first one is a full-time financial system administrator. As Becky mentioned, the risk of this system is the interdependency of data and processing. A lot of manual controls will now become automated, and it will be critical that we have someone dedicated to ensuring that transactions move through the system timely and that data integrity is maintained. Typically, we would find this support from an IT staff person who we would share with other departments. We've been talking with Jane about the magnitude of this system, and we all feel that it's important that there be a single person who manages the system, and we think, unlike other systems, we think it's important that position be in the finance department. This has become the practice of other localities who have implemented systems like One Solution, and we're finding that most localities are doing it. The ones with One Solution are having a system administrator in their finance department. There are actually a couple who have a staff of system administrators in their finance department. We're just looking at this point for one position. We have funding in the project. This is a position that we would be hiring to help with the backfill and support. And so we don't need funding. What I need is only the board can authorize permanent positions. I need your support to authorize me to hire that position now with the funding in the project as a permanent position. Then we can get the position on board. It can help us with the implementation, and it would continue on beyond the system implementation and be maintained from that point on as a base budget item. The second position, again, a position that we have funding for in the project, but we don't have authority as a permanent position, is the part-time procurement clerk. This system is going to automate what has been a fully standard procurement process for every department. It's going to be overwhelming. This position that we're asking for would provide clerical support to the procurement staff. In the finance department, we don't have clerical support. We all do our own clerical work. We answer our own phones, we book our own appointments, we do our own emails and mail, and it's worked well for the years, but it's become increasingly obvious that when you're taking, at a point like this where we're changing our system over and we're going to automate this manual process, that it would be helpful if the 4 people in procurement who are certified procurement officers and managers could focus on their level of work and not the clerical work that goes along with contract management. We actually hired a part-time position on a temporary basis. I had come to you earlier and told you I needed some backfill support, and you graciously funded it. And it was amazingly effective. We were so excited to have it, but as is the case when you hire a quality temporary position, about 2 months later, she took a full-time or a permanent job somewhere else, and so we lost her. And so it's going to be hard, I think, for me to find a quality temporary position. And in this case, this is a position I really believe we're going to need to maintain beyond the implementation. And so, too, like the other position, I'm asking not for funding tonight, but for the authority to hire the permanent position, fund it with the project for 19, and then make it part of the base budget in fiscal year 20. The other issue I have in the procurement division, there are 4 staff there, 2 of them are eligible to retire. They have not mentioned retiring, but they're eligible. They could at any point, and the next 18 months is going to be critical as we implement this system. If I lose 50% of my procurement staff in the middle of this implementation, it could be critical to this group. So having another position there would provide some continuity, would help us to maintain it. And as is always the case when there becomes a vacancy in finance, we will review the needs and determine whether we need to continue that position or not. At this point, I believe it would be critical, and it would be extremely helpful in both these cases to have these positions permanently. So that's our request to you tonight, if you so please, is to authorize those 2 permanent positions funded from the project for 19, but then part of the base budget in fiscal year 20. And we'd be more than happy to answer any questions, either about the project update or about those 2 positions.
Any questions? I'm willing to make the motion for the full-time position, and I guess you want the
It's a full-time and a part-time.
part-time position for finance, as Mary stated. Any discussion? Dr. Champion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have a salary range in mind?
We do. We believe on the part-time position, it will be a clerical position, 28 hours. I'm thinking no more than $30,000 salary and benefits in total. On the other position, because we're not exactly sure where it's going to fit, some of it will be dependent upon the qualifications of the employee who applies. We're looking at somewhere in the G21 to G23 range. All in benefits and everything, that could be anywhere from $83,000 to $130,000. I don't know, because a lot will depend upon the quality of person that I can get on board. Typically, when we have IT staff, we would be looking for an IT person that has finance background. Now we're going to be looking for a finance person that has some IT background. I think they're out there, and I think we can find a quality person that will help us. I just don't know until I see the applicants.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Quick question. Once you implement the whole system here, as well as the employees, do you see the county saving or reducing cost, more efficiency?
Certainly think it'll be more efficient. There's no doubt about it. I think it will also, as Becky has noted, it will cut out a lot of paper processing. The workflow process will be something that will be much easier for all of us that use email and phones. We'll be approving things like the electronic timesheets through that process. It will also, though, once you get that information and you have that data available, it will also allow us to audit and look at things differently. So it could provide opportunities for us to find issues and then become more effective about the way we implement it. I believe we're going to see, I can't guarantee you automatic time savings, but I think things like reporting, things that we're doing behind the scenes. Now, we bring reports to you that look pretty. They don't come out the system that way. We have to pull them into an Excel sheet, spend a lot of time doing that. That stuff will definitely speed up, that we will be designing reports that will do that for us. Believe it or not, when we implemented the current system 18 years ago, I actually was in the treasurer's office. I moved over to the finance department the year we implemented it. I remember Tammy pulling her hair out through this implementation, and here I am sitting here actually excited about this new, I don't know what's wrong with me some days. It is exciting to see the possibilities, Mr. McLaughlin, and I think we're going to see a lot of, we're going to be able to provide more transparency. We're going to be able to produce more reports. We're going to have a lot of opportunities. The system it's a system off the shelf, but it has so many options, and that's what we're struggling with now. What options do we want to implement that will be effective and that we can maintain long-term. I think we're going to see so much more from this system than what most of us can even imagine, so.
Thanks. Well, no, Mr. Taylor, I mean, can we support the positions? Is this?
Yes, sir. Again, there is current funding in the project for these positions through FY19. They would need to be added to the FY20 base budget brought forward next February.
Yes.
And you endorse it as well?
Absolutely. I think what we've seen moving to this point, first of all, is that the system administration is critical. The current and the trend in the architecture is to put that management into finance rather than in IT, and that's simply because it is so heavily involved with the finance system. It certainly will continue to need Jane's assistance and support, but it is so driven with the subject matter that it's going to need, being housed in finance makes sense. I'm concerned, and I want to put a bookmark in place that we may need to come back with another edition in 20 or beyond for that as a cohort with that system administrator, because the issue, this system is going to create a lot of potential. One of the questions I have is we need to learn and reorganize our business processes so that we're maximizing the benefit of that potential. But this is a good step at this point. Yes, sir.
And just the last question, because I know we're all facing this, and with IT, security and all that, as we put more and more of this data in a cloud or wherever it may be stored, since it's not paper anymore, how are you going to protect this data?
We are going to be behind this. We are working on a cybersecurity policy right now. We won't go into details, of course, with that publicly. I have a whole team that's working to make sure that this data will be secure, especially as we begin to move this thing out into more employees' access. As you know, there was an issue a couple years ago where some personnel information in another entity got accidentally revealed. We're going to make sure that this stuff is locked down to the best of our ability. So we are working with them. We're not going anywhere. We're fully behind the finance department on this. Our role has just changed, and to provide more of the infrastructure, the backbone, the security, they provide the subject matter expertise.
It's the only thing this will work in conjunction with the checkbook portion, or?
The open check?
Yes.
Book? Yeah, we'll have some, if not exactly what you see, there will be something very similar. I imagine it'll be the same thing, the transparent, open, searchable checkbook, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Got a motion by myself to go ahead and approve the full-time and part-time position as Mary described. Mr. Skinner? Mr. Skinner? Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Trampy?
Aye.
Chair's aye. Mr. Skinner? Can you pick up the phone and see if he's...
Ed?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, just one question I had, if you don't mind. Mary, is there potential for anybody within the system to move it into that position and backfill the other one?
I'm not aware of anybody at this point, Mr. Skinner, but I would certainly be open to that if there was someone available for that, yes. We would advertise externally because we would get a greater pool of people that way, but we would certainly be open to that. And I am not aware of anyone currently who is able to fill that position, but there may be others that someone's aware of that I'm not. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Mr. Skinner, we need your vote.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you all.
Ladies, before you leave the table, I just want to go back to one small point on slide 4, because it strikes me that I have seen, as a an employee, a professional has transitioned to the world of computers from the world of paper, I have seen the phrase user-friendly and intuitive screens before. And I want you to know how much I and the other employees of our organization are counting on you to make this training work in a useful and valuable way so that we can maximize the benefit of this system we're investing in for the good of our community.
What's nice about these screens is we can actually customize them, and it's not custom work. It's the ability within the software, so it'll be role-based. So the person will only see the fields that they need to see. So if we're not using some extraneous other options, we're just going to eliminate it from the software so they can actually go step by step throughout the system.
All right. I'll look forward to it.
Thank you all very much. Mr. Taylor?
Chairman, that brings us to County Administrator and County Attorney's report. I passed out at your places some information answering questions and updating with additional information concerning the retiree health benefits information and the retiree benefits coach position that has been discussed. And Mr. Skinner, please accept my apology, sir. These materials were finally assembled late this afternoon, just before we learned that you would not be participating live, but I will send them to you electronically before I leave here tonight. This is an update to the frequently asked questions document, an update to the scenarios examples, and a communication answering the question on the number of retirees, of which we currently have 167, 110 of which are currently eligible to receive Medicare benefits. 58 county employees are eligible to retire under full retirement as of July 1st, 2018, and 274 county employees will be eligible for full retirement as of July 1st of 2028. There was discussion following Mr. Deskin's presentation about the desirability or the possibility of engaging, creating a retiree benefits coach position in our staff in HR, and it's been clarified that that would be a possibility for us. Could add that as a full-time position at a projected cost of just over $100,000, $106,000, and that's fully loaded with salary and benefits. And that could, if the board wanted to initiate that position in connection with any change to the retiree health benefit program this fall, that could be initiated using funds available in the budgeted contingency, and we would add it as a permanent position to the complement and fund it in the proposed budget for 2020. At least one supervisor has asked about making this position mobile, or to, in other words, provide a vehicle with it so it could meet with retirees off-site, and that could be done at an additional one-time cost of $22,000. Also want the board to know I did speak with Mr. Deskins this afternoon to get further update from him about his interactions with our existing retirees, of whom he has now spoken to approximately 40. He still has found only one incident of an employee who would encounter greater expense under the proposed plan than they experience under the current plan. And he added the detail that delta, that additional expense, is in the neighborhood of $150 for that individual employee, and that might be mitigated by choices, by different drug choices, particularly by choosing generic prescriptions in lieu of brand name prescriptions for that individual. But certainly he has found no other individual that would be worse off under the proposed plan than they would be under the existing plan. And indeed, for a couple of cases with an employee who currently pays to have their spouse on our retiree health insurance that is available, those employees would see a savings in excess of $8,000 annually. So those are highlights from his interactions. He is still available by phone and can set up appointments to interact with any other retirees that maybe have questions for him, and he can also be brought back and will be brought back in September when this matter needs to be discussed further and to be acted upon by the board.
In discussion by the board. Mr. Russell.
So I think if we do go forward with the change, that I would support this position. But as far as this position goes, it seems like there would be a big need up front because you've got all the retirees that would be coming in and needing the information. But after that upfront time, it seems like you're going to have a trickle amount. So I agree with this position for maybe a year. Could you then cut it back to a part-time or reduce it? Because I don't see the requirement for this. I see the requirement more upfront for the first 6 months to a year, and then trickling down to really just those that would be turning 65.
Right. Now, I understand the question, and that same concern has led us at the staff level towards some discussion of modifying the role just a bit to focus more generally on or cast it as a health benefits specialist, because in the out years we see a continuing need for refinement to the health benefits program for the employees as well as the retirees, and so we may choose to not continue the position years down the road if there's not the need for it, or we may find that there is need to recast it somewhat to focus on employee benefit as well as retiree benefit issues in a regulated area that's becoming more complex really in all directions.
Okay. And how many staff members do we have right now that handle benefits, health care for active county employees and retired?
There is one position in HR that deals with both payroll and benefit compensation issues generally.
Well, I just want to remind, this is a recurring thing. Annually, they'll need the retirees, based on their health.
Right, so they may have modifications from time to time.
Yes.
And I'll say the one position related to compensation in HR that's been a single position through phenomenal growth in the staff complement of the county generally.
Right. And I just don't know how competent we can get somebody on a part-time basis to do, like Mr. Ross said, who's got the knowledge and background.
Well, no, and this is certainly envisioned at this point and for the foreseeable future as we transition to the proposed program, if that's the board's decision, that this would need to be a full-time position.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, Mr. Ross.
Well, let me just throw out another option. Could be, again, if what I'm, and I don't know whether I'm right, that I would assume that the workload and the demand on this type of service would be more upfront because you've got 108 county employees that would need that service right away, and then after they get that service, they probably won't need it as much, and then you'll not have that flow. You won't have 108 per year that are turning 65, I take it. Another option could be to outsource this. If a part-time person is not going to be able to be hired that has that knowledge, certainly we could outsource this to a person that would be an on-call person per se at an outsourced rate by something that we have to hire internally and take that cost on for the out years. Just another option.
Understood, Mr. Ross. And if I might speak to that thought, in considering this particular position and the program that we've had in the past and the program that is proposed that we move to in the future, I think a fundamental issue on the table to be considered is trust. Another one is time and capacity. Our retirees, and I think this certainly bears out in Mr. Duskin's experience with talking with them, they need an opportunity to understand and have patiently explained to them and to patiently consider all the alternatives available to them, and to have someone who is knowledgeable, who is perceived with trust, and who is coaching them towards smart decisions for their future healthcare benefit under the supplement plans. So I think there's very big value for the county in servicing this particular function as a member of the team, if you will, as someone that we're holding accountable and holding close and watching closely to ensure that the retirees' questions are answered, that their needs are met, and that they're given the support they need to proceed in what is for them a very new direction. Or I should say would be, because again, this is still for decision in September.
Any further? Mr. Taylor, I would ask, can you have HR or Mr. Duskin's contact Bill Neely? He reached out to me and
Happy to, Mr. Chairman.
said he had left a message but hadn't got a return call. I don't know what happened. I'm sure Mr. Duskins does his best to get back to folks, but he's looking to reach out to them and learn and be informed himself on his issues. Mr. Marshall.
I believe we're kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit here. If we're talking about hiring a position to facilitate a decision that we haven't even made yet as a board, to try to hire a person to sell someone else's product basically is what you would be doing with this position, and I don't see the need for it until the first board has to make a decision in September. Then we can talk about future positions if needed.
I'd brought this up the last meeting. I think that I would not approve or would be able to make a decision if this wasn't part of it. And I think Mr. Taylor was asked to bring back just information on it. I don't think it was
right, because the question was, could we even have such a position? Could we do that, or is the sale or facilitation of supplemental insurance products regulated such that we couldn't venture into this without creating an insurance broker sort of situation? And I think the clarification is that with the right parameters in place, we can certainly do this, and it is as a neutral advisor and not as a salesperson in any regard, and that would be carefully laid out and fully understood and fully disclosed to the retirees. So the role would be absolutely clear. This is to help them navigate change.
No, I'm fine.
okay. Any other, Mr. Skinner? Anybody else? All right, Mr. Taylor.
The other communication, just as an update, I will have a communication out tomorrow, I expect, following final review from Mary on the internal questions regarding internal audit. Would commend that discussion will come back at the board's August meeting, which will be joint with the school board, and I would commend to the Board of Supervisors that you might take the opportunity to view the streaming file of the school board meeting from last evening, in particular discussion that the school board had regarding the approximate $870,000 in so-called extra money coming from the state. I say so-called extra because the Board of Supervisors budget, the county budget, was built based on a projection of what revenue we expected to come from the state to fund our local school division. And the board then adopted our budget and set our tax rates based on that expectancy of the state funding. And the observation was made by Dr. Trampy, I believe, when the budget was adopted, that we were finally, because we could, achieving full funding for the schools. Lo and behold, and recall the state's budget process was delayed when they finally adopted the state budget. It's come forward, the revelation in the state budget, that in fact the state is providing approximately $870,000 to $880,000 of money over and above what had been our projection. So in fact, there is this increment of extra money between what we thought they would get from the state for the school division and what they are in fact getting from the state for the school division. Now that state
Mr. Taylor,
money
you're saying that they are fully funded this year?
Well, that was fair minds may quibble over that. I think there might have been a matter of $250,000 in one-time money, if I recall correctly. But from as far as the trend line of our past budgets for the school division have gone, certainly Dr. Trampy's comment that was not been contested by the school since was that we achieved for the schools in our budget this year full funding in FY19. And so this $870-ish thousand is, or may be, at least discussable as extra. And one of the things that I noticed was that school security is certainly a huge concern of the Board of Supervisors, and that's been well said. And the funding for SROs in every school, which was the board's initiative, for FY19 depended in part upon grant-funded positions for 4 of those SROs. We've learned that only 2 grants have been approved, so we will be 2 SROs short. And so one of the questions to ponder might be, would it be advisable to reduce the county appropriation to the school division in order to divert a bit of money to the sheriff's office to provide those 2 SROs with direct funding, given that the school's needs are covered by the money sent by the state. So the school division, the school board last night at their meeting discussed for 15 or 20 minutes their priorities in connection with this extra state money. And I expect that they will be coming in August with a presentation wanting to have a discussion about those funds. Interestingly, they include in that discussion of school security issues. They also included in their discussion a discussion of reviving the internal audit position that they have had in the school division in the past. And so they are aware, and I've been communicating with Dr. Baker about this, that auditing is an issue for discussion that is of interest to the Board of Supervisors, that school security is an issue of interest to the Board of Supervisors, and that we are also looking at whether the state funds have met or exceeded our projections otherwise in relation to county programs and county funding from the state. I don't have the final on that from finance, but I will circulate that when we do, because it'll be interesting to see if we might be short in other areas in terms of the state funding.
Any comments from the board? Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's all I have. Carl?
No report.
All right.
We do have closed meeting items, Mr. Chair, that I would suggest at this hour, given it's 20 of 6. And next scheduled item are public presentations and public hearings at 6:30.
Okay. Carl, you can read us in?
This will be your resolution to adjourn into closed meeting. Whereas the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors desires to adjourn into closed meeting for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, specifically regarding the matter of Mills versus Spotsylvania County, U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, Civil Action Number 3:18 CV 00423-MHL, and whereas the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors desires to adjourn in a closed meeting for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically regarding the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2 3711A7 and 8, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors does hereby authorize discussion of the aforestated matters.
So moved.
All right, motion by Mr. Yakubowski. Mr. Skinner. Aye. Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin. Aye. Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Chair, aye.
Whereas the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2 3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Spotsylvania County Board of Supervisors hereby returns to open meeting and certifies by roll call vote that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion to convene into closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting.
Mr. Skinner.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Chair, aye. Guess now we'll be in recess till 6:30. No, we're not. Go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, it's time for public presentations, 6:30. Amy?
There are 3 citizens signed up to speak. The first is Nicholas Koslicki, followed by John Buckley.
You can come on up.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ashley Koslicki, Nicholas's wife, and we just moved in to Mineral Springs Plantation on Lot 83, which is immediately to the right of the Columbia Gas Lot 82, where the pig launcher will be.
Excuse me, ma'am, are you intending to speak to the item that's up for public hearing this evening regarding the application for the Columbia Gas?
Yes.
Facility number, that's the subject of a public hearing that will be in just a couple of minutes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, this is public presentation time. This is time set aside for citizens to bring matters to the board's attention that are not the subject of public hearings. But we'll
I'm
get to your
sorry.
public
Okay.
hearing in just
Nope,
a
you're
moment.
Thank you, thank you. I'll be back.
John Buckley, followed by Vicky Pratt.
All right, good evening. My name is John Buckley. I'm from the Cortland District. Again, we're coming to the Board of Supervisors and everybody in Spotsylvania County. Spotsylvania DSS continues to refuse to give back what's rightfully ours, which is our son, Juan Antonio. We've been following the processes. They've had ample opportunities, including every 6 months there's a permanency planning hearing, and they continue to recommend the goal of relative placement with the concurrent goal of adoption. So the processes are being followed, and they've been given at least 3 or 4 chances. There's one coming up on August 3rd of next month. So that's another opportunity for them to see what we've been doing for the last 18 months. I don't know what else they want from us. They've been watching us like a hawk for 18 months through this glass window. They've watched us for an hour. They've watched us for 2 hours. We've recommended for them to put a camera in our house. We've recommended for them to see the children again. So it's really frustrating to just ask the question of what we can do to bring back our child. We are amenable to anything, but they're not willing to. So with that said, we continue to beat the drum here, not only here at the Board of Supervisors meeting, but we continue to, since the last time we spoke, we've spoken to Alliance Defending Freedom with Michael Ferris, who just won the Baker case with the Supreme Court, so he's interested in our case. We've talked to Senator Bryce Reeves, and he's going to continue to draft legislation against an appeal for appeal processes. And we also have met with the Parental Rights Organization as well as Congressman Dave Bratt last night at a fundraiser. So he's going to try to do something that we've asked him to do, and we'll see what happens. But we're not going to just stand by and let Spotsylvania DSS ruin our lives, ruin our reputation, because they don't want to bring our child back, which is ours. So with that said, I think I got 40 seconds left. So I want to read a letter, because everybody's been writing me letters from Pennsylvania to California, Hawaii. They want to come all the way to Virginia just to speak on our behalf. I've asked them to just send me snippets of letters that we can read. So this lady is Julie Rogers from Mechanicsburg. She's known us since 1997. She's just really dumbfounded at what's going on in the system. And if she was to come here and tell you that we are loving and caring parents that want our child back, plain and simple, nothing but that. We have 8 other children that are at home right now. Thank you.
Vicky Pratt.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry. I'm quite nervous. I've never done this before. But I'm here as well on behalf of the Buckleys. We've known this family for years, and this is totally unbelievable. I mean, I truly feel like there's such a disconnect. I've listened to this for months. I've known them since the child was born. Before that, I've been with her through the pregnancy, all kinds of things. I can tell you, she goes above and beyond. They go above and beyond what any parent would do. If they're not fit to be parents, none of us are. I'm serious. I would be thrilled to have them, watch my children, whatever, give advice, anything. I do. I trust and value them very much. Their opinions, their, way they do things. There is no more perfect family, and there is no such thing, of course. But this is as close as it gets. And I really don't know where the problem is. But if this were your child, would you just be like, okay, we're, whatever. This doesn't make sense. They have 8 other children. If they're not fit parents, why are they allowed to take care of 8, but not 1? I don't know anybody, in the DSS. I don't know the process. I think any of us could name a few people that we know personally that probably shouldn't have their children, or we really question some things. And yet we've actually seen DSS give them back in many cases. And truly, what Mr. Buckley says, they've watched the family, they've done everything. DSS, if anything, from what we can tell, is working to terminate their rights. They have done everything. Now DSS is telling them they cannot take pictures anymore with this child when they visit. They were allowed, and now they're not allowed. Why? Is that not a valid question? Truly, they have family members who've gone through the entire process, jumped through the hoops, done everything to have a family placement. They do nothing. The DSS acts like it's no big deal. This is a huge deal. This is not going away. All of us are going to keep coming back. We're going to, like Mr. Buckley said, we're going to do whatever we need to do. I think anybody would if this were your child. I can't fathom this. I really can't. And I truly apologize. I'm not used to speaking at all. I really, truly have no words. I don't know what else we can say that hasn't been said. I don't know what you all can do, but I'm trusting and hoping and praying that you're sitting up here and you can do something, and I beg you to do that. Thank you.
There are no other citizens signed up to speak.
All right, is there anybody that wishes to speak that did not sign up for public presentations? You can come forward.
My name is Alma Buckley from the Cortland District. Really quick, I just wanted to thank you guys for what you have been able to do in writing letters to Duke Storn and the deputy and Mark Cole and Richard Stewart for what you've been able to do. I know it's not much, and I know you're trying to let the process work itself, and I just want to thank you because every little effort helps. And a lot of things have been happening, and we've been talking to a lot of state and congressional leaders, and we're just very thankful for the doors that God is opening, and God bless you in your positions and what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else who did not sign up to speak wish to speak? All right, close public presentations.
Mr. Chairman, next item is special use permit 17-0005. This is Mineral Springs Plantation LLC, Columbia Gas of Virginia. This is in the Chancellor District, and this is the Columbia Gas cleanout facility special use permit.
All right, the floor is yours, Kimberly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request on behalf of Columbia Gas of Virginia for a special use permit to allow a public utility on rural zoned property located in the Mineral Springs Plantation subdivision. Specifically, the special use will allow a pig insertion facility on a portion of the property. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on June 20th and voted 6-0 to recommend approval with the recommended conditions. Staff is also recommending the board adopt the resolution of approval with the recommended conditions. I will note that no one spoke at the public hearing that the Planning Commission had on June 20th. There was a community meeting that was held in October of 2017 with no attendees. We have had several phone calls from citizens living in the Mineral Springs subdivision with general questions about the use, but I hadn't received any concerns up to this point. Here's an aerial image of the property highlighted. It's approximately 5 acres and located along Hunting Run Drive. As you can see, it's surrounded by other large lots within the Mineral Springs subdivision. You can see the proximity to the reservoir here to the north, and also the existing gas line that runs through the property here. Here's a zoning map with the subject property highlighted. All of the surrounding properties are zoned rural. The future land use designation for this area is rural residential. Public utility infrastructure is typically considered compatible with all land use designations as it provides a utility service to the county. Here is an example of what a pig insertion facility looks like. PIG stands for a pipeline inspection gauge. These are above-ground pipes which are empty, and they serve as an access port to the main gas line. So they insert through these ports the pig, and it goes through the line to do maintenance, collect data on the line, and do inspections. Here is the GDP. Access to the facility will be provided by Hunting Run Drive. The entrance will be paved per VDOT standards, and then there will be a gravel access drive to the facility itself. The facility will be completely fenced and will sit approximately 225 feet from Hunting Run Drive. And here's the edge of fencing right here. Columbia Gas will inspect the site once every 2 months, and the actual pig operation occurs annually. So traffic to the site is minimal. The fencing surrounding the facility will be screened with forest green slats, and there's landscaping to be installed, as you see on the GDP. Those are 6-foot holly trees that will be installed and to provide screening to the facility. The facility itself and the access only consume about 0.65 of the acres, 0.65 acres of the property. Nothing proposed with the special use will prevent the remainder of the property to be developed as a residential lot. It should be noted there are some preserved earthworks that are located on this lot. They are located more than 500 feet from this facility and won't be impacted with this use. Also, this has, the proposal has been reviewed by the Mineral Springs Plantation Homeowners Association and their Architectural Review Committee, as well as the Spotsylvania Historical Society, all of which have provided their endorsement of the proposal. Here is a view east, so this is standing on at Hunting Run Drive, and here's the pipeline, existing easement. So the northernmost edge of the fence will run along this tree line here where you see these pink flags. Here is a view west, so this is standing at the edge of the fence looking out back towards Hunting Run Drive. So that vegetation that you see there is going to stay, it won't be disturbed with this. So there is some clearing, of course, that will occur for the facility, but this buffer will remain in place. Here is the view south, again standing at the edge of the fenced area facing south. That is the closest residential house. There's a new pipeline that's going through here, as you can see, and all of that clearing is already underway and almost completed. So the distance here to that residence is approximately 300 feet. This proposal, it is consistent with and compatible with the development district and the land use designation per the comprehensive plan. The visual impacts have been mitigated with the proposed landscaping and the screened fencing around the facility. And the proposal provides a necessary piece of public infrastructure which will enhance the efficiency and safety to the county population. Findings against the proposal are that while the existing vegetation and proposed landscaping will limit the visual impact, there are still going to be points of visibility, particularly from Hunting Run Drive, just north of the facility when they're exiting. That's going to probably be the most impactful at that spot where that existing gas line easement is and there's no trees. So again, staff is recommending approval with the recommended conditions. Those include that the property will be developed in conformance with the GDP that we just saw, that the facility will be completely fenced, and that all fencing will be 6 feet in height and include the forest green slats, and that the landscaping shall be provided around the facility in order to screen it to the extent possible as identified on the GDP. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant's representative, their engineer, is here to answer any questions as well.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, a couple quick ones. Real quick, the picture you had up with the facility, what it looks like, the pipes coming out of the ground, I'm assuming that's less than 6 feet in height?
Yes,
Because it's going to be covered by the screen?
From the tallest point would be about 4 feet.
4 feet, and then it'll be covered with a 6-foot screen plus screening. And then I think you had another picture that showed the clearing right now where the new pipeline's going in.
And so this is the existing, and then this one shows where the new line is going.
Right, so where the bulldozer is it 300 feet to the next property, or is it 300 feet from the pink stake to the next property?
From the edge here
Yeah.
of the stake to the dwelling.
It's 300 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you also said they'll still be able to build a house on this lot?
Yes, sir. I don't have let's see, let me go to this. Property's 5 acres, so the facility is going to be in this top portion right here, no more than 0.65 acres from the access road to the facility. So, and the property owner is the developer of Mineral Springs. He did secure an access easement to ensure access to the rear portion of this property. So
they'll build a house eventually
Yes,
on
sir.
that lot? Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from the board? We'll open up public comment for special use permit 17-0005, Mineral Springs Plantation. Come on up, sir.
There's nobody else signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you.
spot where my resident actually, you can see. Yes, so that is our property right there.
And if you would state your name
Oh, I'm
again,
sorry.
names again for our record?
My name is Nicholas Kozlicki. We are the homeowners of Lot 83 Mineral Springs Plantation. Our biggest concern is you spend over $500,000 for a house, and now you have bulldozers coming through, you have construction vehicles coming through, you have all sorts of other people coming through. It's an eyesore. I work for Virginia State Police. I like to be outside of that eyesore. We move there for the peace, for the tranquility, for the nature that's around us. I understand that they're going to put up the slats up there, the green plastic, as well as the holly trees, but what else can they put up to take care of that eyesore? We'd like something that goes on the outside, maybe spruce, where it comes up to where we don't see what she has on that right there, that screen. They're right there at the beginning of their pipeline. They currently have a fencing up there right now that's an eyesore. And I don't know if they have any pictures of that, but that's really not our concern right now. It's what is to be in the future. How can we go ahead and maintain what we have right now?
Yeah, we support it being there, the inspections, and we understand it needs to be there, and that's okay. I think he and I, my husband and I, are just a little taken aback because we did not even know about the June 20th meeting. We received no notification, no letters in the mail, no notices from HOA, nothing. When we purchased the property over a year and a half ago, we were told there's a 40-foot easement to the right of our house. That would be the pipeline, and it says 40-foot easement. That has been extended to 60, unbeknownst to us. And we don't mind that the gas line is there. We don't mind the pig launcher being there. But what concerns us is the location and the placement. We're lot 83. The pig launcher will be on lot 82. Lot 81 to the left of the launcher was purchased by the family that owns lot 80 and told us that they are never building there. So it would make more sense to us to have it pushed as far to the left as possible towards that vacant land that's not going to be developed or built upon, to give more space between our home and the pig launcher. We don't oppose it being there. We just want a little more privacy. We weren't expecting this to be so close when we did move into the house just recently.
Last but not least, I don't think they mentioned anything about lighting. Is there going to be lights facilitated there? What are they going to do for security? That's the other thing that we are opposed to, is the lighting out there. So I don't know what
the windows you see on the left side, when you're looking at that picture, that's our master bedroom, and we're just concerned about any utility lighting that may be on all night long, especially him working overnight sometimes and needing to get some rest. We specifically chose the neighborhood for no street lights, quiet, privacy, and all the trees. And then we moved in, and we're kind of nervous that maybe that's all being taken away.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that did not sign up that wishes to speak in reference to this special use permit, Mineral Springs Plantation? All right, seeing none, close the public comment. Do you have any comment about the lighting? Kimberly, do you have any of that?
The facility will not be lit at all. It is pushed all the way to the north property line. It's as far to the north property line as it can go. And the applicant's representative is here too if you had questions for them.
Mr. McLaughlin.
A quick question, again, brought up by the residents, and again, this is a concern a lot of people have too, is when, this facility goes in and about the screening. So what kind of assurances can you give them that we're going to cover this facility up the best that we can with whether it's evergreens or the hollies, which may, which one is going to fill the property in the best, and maybe the applicant knows that, or?
Well, the landscaping that is identified on the GDP that will be conditioned will be required. When they come in for site plan, they'll have to identify that on the site plan. When the site plan is approved and they get a CO for the facility, they'll post a landscaping bond for that required landscaping, and that goes for 2 years. But then even beyond that 2 years, it's a code compliance issue. So if a tree dies, if there's any issue like that, they would have to replace that. It would become a enforcement issue.
And it's by code, the spacing and all that around this buffer, or is that?
That's all being set here with the GDP.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Kimberly, you say the applicant is here. Can they address the lighting issue, please?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Brian Mitchell with Town Site Engineering, and I'm here tonight representing Columbia Gas, Virginia, on this. The site will not be lit. There'll be no lighting. Don't have a problem adding that in as a condition of approval. And I guess I should also speak to, I know we've had kind of a major project going on replacing the existing pipeline out there, so that's why the bulldozers have been present. I mean, obviously, once that pipeline is complete, and it's about 90% done right now, those all will disappear. So,
Any other questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
Yeah, one last question for a motion is that how long will this project take?
To actually build, well, the hope is if we can reach approval this evening, the contractors that are out there doing the pipeline can accomplish this as well, so we won't have to remobilize or anything like that. I'd say, 2 months tops.
Okay, thanks.
We're at the motion stage. If anybody wants to make a motion. All right, we closed it.
All right, motion to approve.
All right, motion
with
from
the conditions stated. There's no lighting on site, and that. Okay.
We'll add a condition that the facility will not be lit.
Okay, thanks.
So it's the conditions previously recommended with the addition of the condition that the site shall not be lit.
All right, motion by Mr. McLaughlin for approval with the addition of the no lighting. Mr. Skinner. Mr. Skinner. Mr. Jakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Chair's aye. Just pick it up and see if he's there.
Mr. Skinner.
All right. We have 7.
Yeah. Next item is Special Use Permit 17-006, Catholic Diocese of Arlington, St. Patrick's Catholic Church and School. This is also in the Chancellor District.
All right, Patrick, it's
Mr.
yours.
White.
We'll
Thank
open up
you.
the public hearing.
Thank you for the introduction, Patrick White. This case is SUP 17-6. The applicant is the Catholic Diocese of Arlington, and they're requesting a special use permit approval on a 17.81 acre parcel addressed as 9151 Ely's Ford Road to allow the expansion of an existing place of worship and private school on a rural zoned property. The property is located outside of the PDB or primary development boundary and is identified for institutional development on the comprehensive plan's future land use map. Staff's recommending approval with conditions. During the Planning Commission meeting on June 6, the commission recommended approval but struck condition 6 and recommended that the applicant work further to resolve concerns from 2 neighboring households related largely to buffering and the enclosure of an on-site dry detention pond. More on condition 6 at the end of the presentation. The property is located on the east corner of the intersection of Ely's Ford Road and US Ford Road, which branches off to the northeast next to the subject property. The estates of Chancellorsville neighborhood abuts to the north and the east. Land owned by the National Park Service abuts to the south and across the street to the west. The top photo is the front view of the existing church and the site, the bottom view from the same location but panning south. The top photo is viewing from the north from the same location as those you just saw, and the bottom is turned to view across Ely's Ford Road, again from the same location. The top photo is taken near the intersection of an existing dirt path and a walking path, viewing to an existing buffer yard. This photo was taken during the past winter. The photo on the bottom is a view taken this summer. Though it's difficult to see from the photo at the bottom, the neighboring structure was visible from varying points along that pathway. The applicant's GDP includes two major improvements. Firstly, a new church and a school, which will be constructed in the immediate future. Another structure is proposed via this SUP that will serve as a future gymnasium and school. This structure will be built at an unknown future date. There are 3 existing portable classrooms that will be removed following the construction of the first structure. Additional parking is also proposed, as well as a new dry detention facility. Access to the property is provided by 2 full access driveways, one on Ely's Ford Road and one on US Ford Road. Trip generation estimates for the vehicular traffic are estimated to be approximately 600 trips per day, including Saturdays and Sundays. Ely's Ford Road moves approximately 5,000 vehicles a day, and US Ford Road approximately 800. County Traffic Engineering estimates that a decrease in the level of service is expected to result from this proposal during the AM weekday peak period. The applicant is proposing a transitional screen 2 along the north property line that's shown in the green with the blue outline. The buffer area along the northern property line, which is in the green with the beige outline, is proposed, excuse me, I lost my place, is proposed to be a tree preservation area of 35 feet in width. The transitional screen 2, again in the blue outline, is proposed to be improved with an additional 35 large evergreens, 70 medium evergreens, and 8 large deciduous trees. Verification of these and the consistency of this screen will occur during site plan review. Note that as proposed, no new plantings are proposed along the eastern property line. That's the one in the beige outline. Existing landscaping along that property line, shown with the beige border, is proposed to be retained through that 35-foot tree preservation area with 2 exceptions due to an existing and a future drain field. The Board of Zoning Appeals recommended that a transitional screen 2 be used during their review for a modification in order to allow the proposed church to be developed at a height of 41 feet. The applicants have proposed a transitional screen 2 along the northern lot line and the 35-foot wide tree preservation area previously described. On June 6th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the subject special use permit but struck recommended condition 6, which prohibited the development of a future drain field within an identified culturally sensitive area. The Commission again also recommended that the applicant and staff meet with the 2 neighboring households in order to attempt to resolve concerns related to the buffering and the installation of a safety fence around a dry detention pond. Accordingly, staff and the applicant met with the 2 households on June 20th and on June 25th, resulting in the proposal before you tonight. Staff believes it to be an improvement upon the prior plan as it relocates an access way, which was noted as a major concern to one household, establishes a 35-foot wide transitional screen 2 to screen said household, and additionally, the applicant agreed to install a 2-foot berm with evergreen tree plantings in a select impacted area as soon as possible in order to assist screening the household while the church was constructed. That area is depicted in the red outline on your GDP here. Following that meeting, we also met with the second household on the 25th. We went on the property and walked to where the dry detention pond was going to be. That concern was resolved after meeting with the neighboring household. In conclusion, staff's review found the proposal met the 8 special use standards of review. Based on the findings noted in the staff report and consistency with comprehensive plan, staff's recommending approval and that the board adopt the resolution of approval included in your packet. It's important to note that the resolution of approval in your packet contains our existing condition 6 that the Planning Commission recommended against. They struck that from their recommendation of approval. In an effort to try and find some common ground, we drafted a compromise, if you will, that's listed that's verbatim at the bottom of your screen. This language would allow the applicant to construct the drain field in that culturally significant area, but only after documenting and recovering any artifacts in that footprint. I will stand by for your questions. I know the applicant is present, and I know they have a PowerPoint presentation they would also like to provide.
Any questions from the board? All right, you can have your applicant come forward. Floor is yours.
evening. My name is Jonelle Cameron with Walsh, Colucci, Lubelai, and Walsh. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Jonelle Cameron with Walsh, Colucci, Lubelai, and Walsh, and I am here on behalf of the applicant and the Archdiocese and St. Patrick Church. As Patrick mentioned, St. Patrick Church is seeking to expand and add an additional church building as well as an additional school. So the property is located at 9151 Ely's Ford Road and is comprised of approximately 17.81 acres. Of that, the applicant is proposing for 3.1 acres of impervious area, which is only about 17.9% of the site. The property is zoned RU Rural and Comprehensively Planned I Institution. The proposed expansion of the church and school are consistent with the comprehensive plan. This slide here shows an aerial of the property. Here is the existing church, here is the existing school, and here is the rectory. The school houses children ages pre-K 3 through 8th grade. Currently, the middle school students are housed in trailers that are located on the sites here and here. This slide is an illustrative of the general development plan. The current church has seating capacity of approximately 225 seats. Currently, the church has a total of 7 masses, 1 on Saturday evening and 6 on Sunday. The goal is to have a new church building, which would be located here, that has a maximum seating capacity of 608 seats. And what that allows the church to be able to do is to reduce the number of masses on Saturday. The applicant is also requesting the ability to construct a future school and/or gymnasium located here. If that building is a school, the middle school children would be moved from the basement of the church, which is the current plan for phase 1. So as part of phase 1, the church will be constructed, the middle school students would be relocated to the basement of the church building, and the trailers would be removed. And as part of phase 2, if the back building is a school, the middle school children would be relocated from the church to the school, and the existing offices that are in the rectory would be relocated to the new church building. At the Planning Commission, the slide that you all see to your left is the plan that we showed to the Planning Commission. At that time, there was an emergency access travelway that was located here. That travelway is only designed to serve the bioretention facility, an existing well, and as emergency access for fire trucks to be able to serve the back of the new school building if there was an emergency. At the Planning Commission public hearing, a neighbor had concerns about the location of this travelway, specifically in the area that's shown here, that increased or impeded on the 35-foot wide buffer that was made up in alternative locations. The Planning Commission recommended that we find an alternative place for that travelway and provide a complete 35-foot wide buffer. To address the Planning Commission's concerns, the applicant worked with the neighbors to relocate the travelway, which is shown now in this area here, and then also to provide a full 35-foot buffer. This slide shows the landscape plan fully. In addition, when the applicant met with one of the adjoining neighbors, it's the property that is owned by this neighbor here, they had they had concerns regarding the site that they would see as part of construction. The applicant has agreed in the areas here to provide a 2-foot high berm with 6 feet of evergreen trees. The idea behind that would be to plant it as soon as possible after grading. That is earlier than the rest of the landscaping along this area here would be required, but it does allow for there to be additional screening for the adjoining property owner. The area, as Patrick mentioned here, will be existing landscaping that will be retained. The applicant is proposing to have additional widths along the areas here and here to make up for the areas that would be lost with the existing and reserved drain fields. The next 3 slides are the building elevations. The west elevation is the elevation that you would see from Ely's Ford Road. The bottom is the east elevation. The next 2 are the north elevations and the south elevations. This picture here is looking directly from Ely's Ford Road. There is a grade difference about 12 feet as you go from closer to Ely's Ford Road, and then there's a hill that goes down near the school. It's a 12-foot difference. Based on that grade differential, the applicant had to request a modification from the BZA for the height difference. So if you are standing at Ely's Ford Road, how the Stafford County measures height, the applicant is meeting the height requirements, but because of the existing grade of the site, it ends up being 47 feet to the rear. So the applicant had to average the 2. The modification was approved by the BZA and will be conditioned. The applicant is requesting a condition change to condition 6 as recommended by the Planning Commission. The current condition 6 states that any development, including construction of the septic fields within the identified site boundary, as depicted in the inserted figure 4, which is here, is prohibited. The applicant is requesting a alternative condition that says the development within the identified site boundary is prohibited except for, or however, this condition shall not prohibit the use of the reserved drain field location G, which is the drain field here. And if the use of reserved drain fields are needed on the property, reserved drain field location G shall be the drain field of last resort. This is a unique situation because there was a study that was done that found some historical significance in the area that's kind of honeycombed on the screen here. However, the drain fields on site are existing permitted drain fields that are on the site, and the proposed expansion of the school and the church do not create the need to use any of the reserved drain fields. But if in the future they were needed, the applicant would like the ability to use those drain fields. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is committed to continuing to be good neighbors and to work with the community and the neighbors as this development of the project continues. With the positive staff report and recommendations of approval from the Planning Commission and staff, we respectfully request that the board approve this special use permit and eliminate condition 6 as recommended by the Planning Commission. I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chair, can we pull up slide 7 again real quick? It's got a good review. So some of the concerns that were brought up throughout this whole process was really about screening and all that. And I know you've done quite a bit to try to mitigate some of those issues right there. But the one thing, I get here's the plan. And I know some of the concern from the residents were that you go in and clear cut some of the older trees. Mm-hmm. And what I'm asking is if we move forward with approving this, is that you are more selective or take care as opposed to clear cutting, because sometimes developers it's easier to do that, and reduce the amount of that impact. The least amount of impact, the least amount of clear cutting, the least amount of removal of trees in order to accomplish the objective. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. The applicant is committed to doing that. One of the concerns regarding the clear cutting was the neighbor did ask for the berm. So in order to create a berm, you would have to clear cut the trees that are there.
Right.
And then add the 6-foot evergreen trees that were requested. But that being said, the applicant has committed to the community and talked with staff to say when they go to the drawing board and do the grading, their plan is to not clear and try to grade wisely and be able to retain as many trees as possible.
Okay, and one other question. So there's the difference between your recommended condition 6 and the county, is it the same? What's the difference between the applicant and the county's recommended condition 6?
Well, the county's original condition 6 was the complete prohibition of the development of the drain field in that area. The applicant's compromise condition was that development within that area of the drain field would only be allowed as a last resort. And the county's compromise condition was that should the applicant need to develop it as a last resort, they could, but they'd need to catalog and recover any artifacts that were found within the area. The applicant's counter proposal is what was presented to the Planning Commission, basically that they would be allowed to develop the drain field in that area as a last resort.
Is that acceptable to the county? They can do it right now, correct? With no permissions?
I would agree that they could do it right now.
Okay.
But since they're in the special use process and we have the ability to condition it.
So why are we putting more restrictions on them?
Well, because there's earthworks and there were artifacts recovered in that area, because it abuts National Park Service land, because it appears to be a culturally significant area on the property.
So just
so we'd like them not to disturb it.
So what is the impact to the applicant then, based on what the?
There's the impact to the applicants are very much financial impacts. If the applicant was unable to use that reserve drain field, they would be required to redo and reconfigure and redesign their entire septic systems as a whole, because that reserve drain field is included as part of their count if something were to fail. That's a $100,000 plus requirement. If the applicant were required to do the second option by county staff, which was please research and curate, that cost came in at $48,000 to $50,000 plus in order to do that. And we, understand the county's goal, but the other part of it is the point of the special use permit is that it is compatible and okay, but we want to be able to mitigate your impacts. In this case, using the reserve drain field isn't necessarily mitigating any impacts because they're not needed today and they won't be needed as a result of the expansions.
So is there any, so a study's been done in the past on these sites already, is that correct?
Correct, there was a phase 1
It's already
study
been
done.
documented and it's been done to that
Correct.
point? Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions from the board? All right, we can move to public comment. Guess we'll open up public comment in reference to SUP 17-0006 Catholic Diocese of Arlington.
There are no citizens signed up to speak.
Is there anybody that did not sign up for this special use permit that would like to speak now? Seeing none, we'll close public comment in reference to this SUP. Any other questions or comments from the board?
So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve, but I do concur with the applicant on their condition. So if we could state that.
Patrick, if you would go back to the slide that
It's on screen, sir. If I can have the floor computer, please. The applicant's proposed condition 6 is displayed as the second item on the screen before you.
Okay.
And if you'd like to would you like it read into the record, sir?
I think as long as it's sufficiently identified here as the condition change request, which is on slide 13, proposed condition 6, I think that's fine, but you can certainly feel free to read it.
That's all right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to read it.
Is that track? So make the motion to approve the special use permit with the proposed condition 6 as presented by the applicant.
And that will replace the recommended condition 6 of staff.
Any discussion? Mr. Skinner?
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski?
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Dr. Tramby?
Aye.
Chair, aye.
It's the end of your agenda, Mr. Chairman. Next meeting is August 14th, 2018 at 4:30 p.m., and the school board is expected to join you that evening.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Mr. Skinner.
Aye.
Mr. Yakubowski.
Aye.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Ross. Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mr. Dr. Trampy.
Aye.
Chair, aye.